Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? Much going on in Steelerland and the NFL. But I would be remiss if I didn't start this podcast by saying goodbye to my buddy Wolf. Craig Wolfley's kind of a Pittsburgh sports legend, and it's a lot more than sports to him, too. He's a father of 6. He was very involved in charities and donating time, and really a good person, and was definitely a honor to work with him. I was on the air with Wolf a lot over the years, and to know him as a friend, and woke up to that news this morning, and I know he'd been sick for a while, and I guess it wasn't a shock, but just sucks. So there's that. Just wanted to get that out of the way because he deserves all the airtime he should get, and he's a great person. All right, so with this crazy time of year, I always feel like I have to tell you exactly when I'm recording. This is around 6:30 p.m. on Monday, so something could change any second, but as of right this minute, the Steelers don't have a quarterback. If they land one in the next hour, I'll probably record another one. But as of now, Fields is out of the picture. He is a Jet. Darnold is out of the picture. He is a Seahawk, which probably leaves Wilson and Rodgers. Old. I think Rodgers is the better player. Maybe a Daniel Jones. Maybe Kirk Cousins. I mean, as we talked about leading up to this, there's not a lot of options, folks. Hey, if you're going to sign Rodgers, which I kind of lean to if I had to make the pick, I don't know the prices of the both and all that good stuff. And frankly, I don't even think Rodgers has been officially released yet from the Jets. But, you know, I need him at minicamp. I can't have him in Egypt or in some cave. But he did finish last season quite good, and no one seemed to notice. But he's still a good player. And hey, that's why Mike Tomlin is highly compensated to deal with these egos and Rodgers and Pickens and Metcalf and all those good things. So don't have anything quarterback-wise that we didn't know before, really, in terms of my thoughts on, Wilson versus Rodgers. But we do know Fields and Darnold are out of the picture. I'm sure you knew that by now anyways. Now, none of this stuff is official, so it's subject to change. But by all accounts, the Steelers are going to land Darius Slay. Mixed feelings on this. I got a lot of feedback on Twitter in particular, which was down for much of the day. Man, this is Patrick Peterson 2.0. What a disaster. What a terrible move. I understand that sentiment, and frankly, history for corners this age is very rough. The hit rate is very low. That being said, he played really well in the playoffs and Super Bowl and did not have a bad year overall. I mean, it was a little up and down, but played his best at the end, which I thought's encouraging for an older player. Part of a great defense. Scheme here's a little different, but he still has a lot of man capabilities. I don't hate it, but I kind of went, if that's the only corner move that's going to be made before the draft. And assuming that is the only corner move, and I guess I shouldn't assume that. That's not fair. They could add a slot. They could add somebody else, but they're starting to fall off the board pretty quickly. Byron Murphy's still out there. I think you then have to draft one. I mean, maybe it's a third-round pick, but I told you before, this corner class I'm liking more and more. And I also think it's sort of a feather in the cap for Trice. I mean, if this is the only outside corner move they make before the draft, it implies to me that they have some more faith in Trice maybe than I did, and they're closer to the situation. So that's, again, it's like the Metcalf trade. They were not going to be shut out from a corner and a receiver. They lived that world with a good number one, a bad number two on both sides of the ball, and they weren't going to do it again. They're going to get something. They're going to get a bird in the hand. And Metcalf's definitely more than that, of course. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to the NHL to UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, we got some quarter and cornerback stuff out of the way. The Steelers also made some internal moves today. Larry Ogunjobi is out. That should surprise no one. I've brought this up now for months. I don't think he's a terrible player, but he never practices on Wednesday. Late in games, he gets worn down. Late in the season, he gets worn down. A lot of injuries. It's a $7 million cap savings after... I think Metcalf's costing them. He is costing them $18 million this year. So you take some of that out of the picture. The Slay move was announced right after the Ogunjobi move, so maybe that's going to be kind of a wash in terms of salary cap space, which they still have plenty of. But you're really light on the D line. I mean, I definitely think they're going to draft one, although they don't have a second round pick now. I don't want to get you excited, but I have heard some rumblings that they're talking to Javon Hargrave. And that's something I threw out on Twitter the other day was Allen, the former commander, or Hargrave would be a great replacement at about the same cap hit, maybe slightly more than Ogunjobi to be that three technique upfield interior presence. So maybe there's another shoe to drop on that soon. But the fact that Ogunjobi's gone doesn't shock me at all. I kind of knew that was coming. I think Cordell Patterson's still on this team for some reason. I don't think that's going to hold up much longer. And they do have a lot of levers to pull for more cap space, but as of right now, they're in very good shape cap space wise. One thing I don't know if you caught, but I'm starting to realize it's such an Omar Khan type of move. Go back to the Deontay Johnson trade. Go back to the Pickett trade. He's made some player trades, obviously, in his tenure as GM. And one thing he always does that I like, because I think it has more value than most tend to realize, is when it came out, it was the Steelers trade a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. Well, there was a little cherry on top. The Steelers got rid of a seventh, I'm not sure which one, and picked up Seattle's sixth in the process. It doesn't seem like much. But anytime you can get just a little extra, 2 cents on the dollar on a trade like that. And Omar's done that a bunch with those type of deals. Late round pick swap. I'm a fan of that. I am absolutely a fan of that. So a nice little something that maybe went under the radar. The Steelers did not have a 6th round pick. Now apparently they do in the middle of the 6th round. Again, it's a small thing, but win in the margins, pay attention to the bottom of the roster. I'm a big fan of that. Another note on Metcalf, just financially here. He agreed to a 5-year, $150 million extension as part of the trade with $30 million per year. Now, I still have not exactly seen the details, all the money that is guaranteed and all that good stuff quite yet. And frankly, I think when I do, I'll think this is even more team-friendly deal than it looks right now. But this is just the cost of doing business nowadays, folks. And here's where I'm going with that. So when you adjust for cap inflation, when you look at percentage of cap on these on these signings, and that's really the way to look at it, is what percentage of cap is this player taking up? Like when they re-signed TJ Watt, look at the percentage of cap he got in the new deal compared to his old deal. And where I'm going with this is this extension for Metcalf at 30 per is actually a lower percentage of the cap. Again, we're adjusting for inflation than his last deal that he signed in 2022 with Seattle. So the deal he signed with Seattle ate up more cap space percentage-wise than this one does. The cap's just going up at its crazy rate, and you have to adjust for it. Again, it's not your money. It's not my money. It's a going rate. And frankly, the owners are doing just fine, by the way. I don't think they're hurting at all for money. A couple other little things inside the walls, the south side. The Steelers tendered the restricted Jaylen Warren at the second round level. I thought they would do this, but they could have went to one lower. But this is going to be $5.3 million. He can negotiate with other teams, but because they tendered him so high, or they tendered him at the second round level, he's not going anywhere. I mean, they spent just a little extra as opposed to risking it to make sure Warren is a Steeler this year. Otherwise, they would get a second round pick in return if someone were to sign Warren. Well, negotiate with him, sign him. Steelers decide not to match. So he'll be back. This is the move I would have made. We didn't talk a whole lot about restricted stuff, nor did we talk much about exclusive right free agents. But I'm kind of a Ryan McCollum fan, and they tendered him, so he will be back. Again, these are bottom of the roster moves. These are like that 6th for 7th round pick that we talked about. But I think McCollum makes a team and is an NFL backup center. Now, does that have a lot of value? No, but it has value. And if you can pick him up the exclusive rights number, which is like nothing, great. You guys all remember J.C. Hassenauer. I think he's a little bit better version than that. That doesn't even mean he's a number 2 center on game day. Maybe he's on the practice squad, whatever. But I want him in Latrobe, and he flat out might be Frazier's backup. And there has value, and you're getting him extremely cheap at hardly any cap number whatsoever. Last thing to give you here, and I think you're going to like this quite a bit, is there's still more free agency to go. So I'm not going to break this down as a final answer. But let me assure you, and I'm not going to explain the entire comp pick game, the compensatory picks, but the Steelers are killing it right now in the comp pick game. And a real quick thing is basically, if you lose more than you gain in free agency, like the DK Metcalf trade doesn't affect this, signing Aaron Rodgers wouldn't affect it because he's not a UFA, he would have been cut. Just like Slay would have been cut. He's not a UFA. His contract didn't expire. That doesn't count against you. So Dan Moore signing a huge deal. Justin Fields signing a big deal. Jackson signed. So as it stands right now, and it's definitely going to hold up, the Steelers are going to get a really nice haul of comp picks, not for this draft. Not for the 2025 draft that's happening in like 40 days, by the way, but for the following draft. Now, I'm sure that they figured, this is part of the equation. And frankly, if they sign Rodgers and let Wilson walk, they'll gain even more comp pick compensation because Wilson will bring comp picks to them. Wilson doesn't detract from the situation. And you still have Najee, who's going to sign a contract. It'll give you something back. You still have James Daniels, who hopefully signs a big contract before the draft, because if it happens after the draft, the equation's over. It's done. So as it stands right now, I think they're in line to get like a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th in the comp pick game, and potentially more. Now, I'm sure they will sign a UFA from another team. As of now, they have not. And that will hurt their comp pick game, but they're still going to lose way more just in free agency than they gain. And that's great because you should have extra picks if next year you have to go trade up in the first round to get your quarterback or whatever. And also, as it stands right now, as you know, the Steelers do not have a second round pick in this draft. So, knowing they're getting those comp picks, might they be willing to trade next year's 2nd or next year's 3rd during the draft to go get a nose tackle, a running back, a corner, whatever? They should be open to it because they know that they have banked a lot of future picks for a year from now. And that's what smart teams do. I mean, I've praised the Ravens for doing this for years. They're the master at it. And that's part of the equation. You let Dan Moore walk after drafting 2 tackles, you also are going to get a pick because of it. Probably a 3rd-round pick. It's a big contract because he's a left tackle. I mean, Fields is a big contract. He's a quarterback. So that's smart. Eagles are really good at that. Ravens are really good at that. There's a couple other teams, but smart teams play the comp game, and the Steelers are playing that really well. All right, everyone. Hate to break the news or hate to start things with Wolf, but he was on my mind and has been wearing on me all day. But all in all, fun day of NFL stuff. Don't get too worried, concerned that the league is passing the Steelers by. Again, I'm recording this late, 6:30-ish on Monday. A lot more is going to happen in the next 12 hours, 24 hours, even tonight. And I don't get crazy on it. Don't pass final judgment on the Steelers offseason right this second. All right. Take care, everyone. Over and out.